All right, so I would like to read one chapter of this book, Tourette's, Twump and Tweets. They say it is a perfect personality. So this is chapter 9, called Endgame, Survival and Big Money Comeback. Some people have said that Trump never expected to win the election, and yet he did. Besides his huge ego, need for a phone that lenders would answer, need for an avenue to do bigger real estate deals, why else did he run for the White House? Speculation runs rampant, so let's let it run rampant again, tabloid style. This chapter includes an as of yet unpublished op-ed piece written 24th of January 2020, prior to the Senate acquitting Trump of consequences of impeachment by the House, by none other than our opinionista. This is written by our opinionista. It is called Violating the Constitution Under Penalty of Death. Op-ed piece by myself, Dr. J. Swarty, on January 24, 2020. This is my speculation and projection, perhaps fictional, perhaps not, of a scenario that might explain why he ran for election. In 2017, people asked me my thoughts on why Donald Trump wanted to be president and what was going to happen. Based on my understanding of his history, I first said that we have to look at what's in it for him. Essentially because while everyone has some self-interest in everything they do, that is especially the case and always the psychological and motivational underpinnings of Donald Trump. So what else did I say? Given his string of bankruptcies, his lack of lenders picking up the phone when he called, this is all documented, and his need to go to Russia and elsewhere for his business capital, becoming president would give him a new status. No one would refuse to answer his phone calls. Would you agree? If you're president, who's going to not answer your phone call? Well, as we all know, when the president of the United States calls, you pick up the phone. Secondarily, becoming president also puts one in the seat of a vast intelligence network that can help find new real estate opportunities, like building a golf course in a transformed North Korea for pennies on the dollar. With another 3 years of observation of Donald Trump's action and behaviors, I now see another even deeper motivation for him to remain president by whatever means necessary. Beyond the obvious egotistical, testosterone-oriented reasons speculated above. Fear of death motivates many people to take extraordinary measures. He is no exception to the rule. Let's say you are massively in debt to organized crime, and organized crime has threatened to kill you and your family if you do not pay back what you owe. Well, certainly this is a story that humans have heard across the centuries, as well as have seen in hundreds, if not thousands, of movies and television shows in the United States and abroad. This scenario does exist in real life, so let's assume the story of a person who borrowed lots of money to begin and sustain businesses. Then, bankruptcy after bankruptcy has found him in, or rather put himself into, a position where his usual commercial lenders in New York City and elsewhere were no longer willing to throw good money after bad again. So this individual, still owing money, perhaps also to gangster interests in gambling cities such as Atlantic City and Las Vegas, has to then search outside the borders of the United States in greater amounts than previously already done, and ended up finding willing oligarch lenders in Russia or elsewhere. This is the scenario. Now, let's also assume that these transactions are largely off the book and taking place in international business corporations around the world. It will come as no surprise that much of commercial business and political donations are done in this economic banking and discrete business transaction arena. However, that does not mean that they are not real and the debt owed is not obligated to be repaid in one fashion or another. Just because it's in offshore banks or international banking corporations does not mean that those who lend do not expect it back. The borrowed money is real, taken seriously by the lender, and required to be paid back with terms by the borrower. Okay, now, let's say that that same individual whose almost singular skill is creating bankrupt businesses suddenly finds himself unable to pay back the new and current debt or the funds that had been borrowed from these new powerful forces. Perhaps he is cornered into a situation where the only way out, in lieu of unavailable cash payments on the debt owed, is to do something else. With a little bit of discussion, the solution to the debt dilemma is to run for president of the United States. And perhaps all he has to initially do is just run for the presidency. Now, his creditor lenders are investing in a political IPO, a newbie, a novice to Washington politics, a disruptor, so to speak. If he loses, at least he has disrupted the U.S. political status quo. If he wins, sweet opportunity to really create and provide creditors some serious payback. So he takes actions that will compensate the lenders for their current losses. And becoming president is in total alignment with his own psychological megalomaniacal ideations. He runs for president, and somehow, with their help, he does become president of the United States. Now, this lackey and shill, whose family and personal life was under threat due to defaulting on his loans, has created the perfect situation as far as protection of himself and his family. Worldwide and 24/7, he now has a private security guard system called the Secret Service. The security detail of numerous agents is constantly there, protecting his life with their own lives. And of course, paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. Nothing out of his pocket. Nothing out of his pocket again. A free ride. Just like the string of bankruptcies in the wake of his supposed, assumed, and self-professed business acumen. Using the universal vehicle for wealth and riches, opium. You've heard of opium, right? OPM, other people's money. Right in keeping with that. What else is perfect about this? A presidential private security guard advantage continues to be provided after leaving office. Yet, this bodily security is not absolute or guaranteed. It is possible to circumvent the protective powers of the Secret Service, as has been shown in numerous situations through the course of American history, where presidents were attacked and even assassinated. The bottom line is this: Donald Trump has achieved all of his goals. One, seeking public office, not for the sake of anyone else, like to serve the American public, but merely to protect his own body and feed his ego. Two, to make as much money as possible in real estate through the advantage of secret information and private meetings with dictators behind closed doors, paid for by the U.S. taxpayer that only certain eyes have an opportunity to see. And three, to feed his narcissistic ego by being in the limelight constantly. All of the intelligence briefings and the status of the office of the president are major tactical and strategic advantages the president has at his fingertips. Donald Trump will literally do anything to keep that going as long as possible. And with impeachment proceedings, you can imagine how frightening this is for an individual whose life and the lives of his family members are under constant surveillance by his lenders. Lying is not above his pay grade. The final question is, if impeached and forced from office, does he continue to have a salary protected by the Secret Service and continued access to leaders and dictators worldwide? Well, his presidential salary in and of itself puts him in the upper 3% of income brackets in the US, perhaps notwithstanding his massive indebtedness otherwise. If impeached, is he stripped of salary and Secret Service protections? If so, perhaps we can have some compassion for a man and his family that will be put in greater threat of bodily harm by creditors. But it takes a much bigger person than I am to worry about the consequences of what that man's words and actions may turn out to cause. Copyright 2020, J. Sordian. Aftermath of op-ed piece. The above op-ed piece was written prior to the Senate hearings on impeachment of Trump. Given that the Senate did not support impeachment removal of Trump from office, Trump retains his lifetime of Secret Service protection services. He wins taxpayer paid, that is socialism, folks, security guards, a pension for life, access to daily briefings on the most top secret files of the country, which is insider trading information, and many more perks, like personal connections with multiple numbers of dictators who he can cut real estate deals with. He gets it all, while the economy for many will be failing them still. 4 years later, even if he loses the 2020 election. This is not a job that you get paid based on accomplishments or productivity. But just because you did a bad job doesn't mean you lose re-election. You don't necessarily get a cut of how the economy got better, but if people are feeding you information on what to say, and they know that the stock market or other things are going to go up or down as a result, billions are made on the back of a tweet. So not only does Trump get all of the above benefits, he now even has a psychological pathology named specifically in his honor. Another #1 win. That is a first. No other president has that distinction. Trump is an all-time winner. Well, I hope you enjoyed Chapter 9 of Tourette's, Twump, and Tweets. They say it's a perfect personality. The Untold Story, an Unreal Autobiography, written by Professor Tweedledum Nimbus Chutney, PhD, BS, AMD.